Why the new Star Wars trailer and Star Wars trilogy sucks. Good morning. Today is April the 15th in 2017, and today I want to speak about the new Star Wars trailer for Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi, which just yesterday was published and which yesterday evening of my time I just watched. Now this is not so going into the details of the trailer, so it is a little bit hyperbole when I say the trailer sucks, because the trailer in itself is okay, but there are elements which are revealed in the trailer which had already been speculated before episode 8 and which seems to be confirmed now, which is already a tendency which I've seen in episode 7, which I think really sucks. Now, before I go into the trailer and the idea which really grinds my gears about the direction of the new Star Wars trilogy, I have to say this. I'm really a long-time Star Wars fan. I love the original trilogy, and I have to say on top of this, I really enjoyed the prequels. You know, the point was this. When I watched the prequels originally in the movie theaters, I watched them several times. I know that I enjoyed them back then. There are certainly scenes, or were scenes, which felt a little bit fishy, no doubt. The love scenes were really not so well, and some of the things some of the characters said were a little bit too weird. No doubt about this. This had problems. But overall, I felt well with the prequel trilogy, and I have noticed that after watching the prequel movies, I read so many negative articles about prequel hating that I myself began to change my views that, the prequels were so stupid, until at some point I looked back and said, wait a second, I liked the prequels, I enjoyed the prequels when they were in the movies, and I realized that I too much had influenced my own view on the prequels for the very bad talk on the internet, and I have this impression that a lot of people who now say, the prequels suck, are so much too victims of this endless trash talking about them on the internet. So that said, I have also read a lot of Star Wars books, and I was really a fan of the way the Star Wars story after episode 6 was written in the books. Now, why don't I like the trailer and the seeming direction of Star Wars 8? The reason is that the ending of the trailer seems to indicate what people from rumors have guessed about the story direction. When in the end of the trailer, Luke says something like, the Jedi have to end. And in the last months of speculating about leaks and informations we had, a lot of people were already assuming that the idea was, and from the ending of episode 7, it was clear that the Jedi were not recreated by Luke as it was in the books. Now you have to know, in the legend version, Luke creates a new Jedi Order who is based a little bit on different principles. They have families, they have children, and Luke marries Mara Jade, and he has a son. It has been a little bit of time, so people are married and have children in this order, and there are plenty of Jedi after some time. So even though they recreate the order on different premises. Now, as the story in the movie seems to be, unless there is a big revelation that there are lost Jedi somewhere, we have to assume that beside Luke Skywalker, all are presumed dead. And this is something I really profoundly dislike, because, I don't know, I found the idea that Luke recreates the Jedi in some form a good idea because it meant that good triumphed over evil. Good recovered. You see, I was always a big fan of the idea of the Jedi Order. This idea of spiritual warrior monks, of spiritually enlightened warrior monks who also protected people who were in need. And this entire idea of the Jedi Order was an endearing idea. And the problem I have, a lot of fans seem to dislike the Jedi Order of old. I mean, of the time until it was destroyed in Episode 3, because it failed against the dark side. It failed to prevent Anakin falling from the dark side. And sorry, what kind of logic is that? And I see that in so many debates in forums and in YouTube comments that so many people say, oh yes, the Jedi Order has to go because it failed to against the dark side. I mean, I'm sorry if I bring real life history into this, but I think it is a way to explain why this is such a stupid idea. I mean, saying that the Jedi Order failed against to prevent the rise of Palpatine, and that is why the Jedi Order of old has to go, is like saying democracy has to go because it failed to prevent Hitler. I mean, Hitler did come to power in a very similar fashion like Palpatine, through a time of crisis and through a democratic process inside a democracy which was unable to prevent his rise. And to say that the Jedi Order is no longer valid because it failed to prevent the rise of Palpatine is like saying democracy is invalid because it failed to prevent, it allowed Hitler to rise. So let's not make democracy again, because in a democracy Hitler came to power. It's a defunct, it's a devalued idea. I mean, how stupid would that be? How silly would that be? And there seems to be a rise in fandom prominence of the idea of grey Jedi. There is a balance between dark and light. Like, this idea of balance has been indicated in the prequels and in the, I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the original trilogy, I think not, I'm not sure entirely, but it has been established for a long time, but it has never been formulated what this balance means. And it was always like many of the ideas of the Force in the past were not given into great detail. There were more slogans. So you knew that George Lucas at this time did not really think about these things. At least that's what I'm convinced about. So when we read so much into the balance of the Force, so many people, ever since this slogan came up, have assumed that the balance is a balance between light and dark. And I'm sorry, but that is the most ludicrous bollocks idea that I can possibly consider. Why is this? You see, we have in our Western philosophy the idea that light and dark are synonymous for good and evil. This comes from Zoroastrian religion, and it was then taken over into Christianity and has become a sort of hippie, new age philosophy that light creates dark, dark creates light, blah, blah, blah. And the problem is, equaling light with good and darkness with evil is an analogy. And all analogies are only working limited. If you overstretch the identification with an analogy wants to explain you an idea in an image. And as such, analogies are always only limited in their functionality. Because you see, light and dark are terms from optics. And they say if you light a candle, it casts a shadow. So there's light and dark is connected. Yes, it is true. But bringing this into the terms of good and evil is like if you say, if I do good, if I am kind to someone, if I am nice, if I obey the law, if I am good in any moral sense, that would mean I create evil. So when I am nice and good and obey the law and I am friendly to other people through some mystical reality that forces someone else to be evil. Sorry, that's a bollocks ideology. And even that I could go into this thing, you have to really look into optics, because there are so many ways how this analogy in light and dark is defunct. For instance, in optics, light is a thing. Light is photons. It is something that you can measure. Darkness is not a substance. Darkness is not a thing. It is flawed that we have in our vocabulary even the word darkness, because darkness is not a thing like light. Darkness is not the opposite of light. Because light is a thing, it's photons, it's light waves, it is something that you can measure, that you can quantify in physics. The darkness is not a thing, it's not a substance. The darkness is just our word for the absence of light, or for so little light that we cannot see it any longer. So it is a flawed concept to describe good and evil, because good and evil in real life are not connected. That I do good does not mystically make someone else do evil, or vice versa. When someone does evil, it does not automatically create someone who does good. It is a ludicrous idea, and it is even worse to have this idea that light and dark should be in balance. There should be a balance between people doing good and Hitler. I mean, are gas chambers, mass murder, war, and all the incarnations of evil, they are part of a balance? This is ludicrous. I mean, you can say, oh, don't come with Hitler, but this is really illustrating it, I think, because Palpatine is Hitler. He has strongly modeled after Hitler. He killed billions of people. From the followers of the dark side, have done countless evil in this Star Wars universe. How is it reasonable to have a balance with this principle? The problem is, okay, Disney can reshape the mythology of the Force. It is in their hands and they can do with it whatever they please. The problem is if you distort the idea of light and dark and the Force in such a way that you say, oh, the right Force is the balance between dark and light, because killing younglings and killing billions of people from hundreds of planets is not evil. It's just a natural part of the things of the endless wheel that is going on. This is a sort of moral relativism, which I hate in real life just as much as in fiction, because it's just ludicrous. It's just ludicrous. It would devalue the entire Star Wars story that happened so far. It would mean the Jedi for the last, I don't know how long this Jedi Order had existed in Legends, let's say 4, 5, 6, 10,000 years. For the entire last 10,000 years, the Jedi have been wrong. Everything was for nothing. Everything they did was stupidity, folly, idiocy. That would mean if they canonize this new view that the gray is the true, the moral ambiguity is the right ideal, which is a very fashionable thing in our day, which I really profoundly dislike. It goes way too much into this social justice warrior idea that all cultures are evil, there is no good and evil, then everyone is right in somewhere, and then no, fuck not. That's the fuck not the case. There are evil ideas, there are evil ideologies, there are evil people. This is not that all is something a mishmash of grey. That is not how I view the world, but it is a very fashionable view in our days, so it is quite possible that Disney, who is also on the forefront of the social justice warrior and political correctness, also goes into this moral nihilism of saying, oh, there is no light, there is no dark, it's all relative, blah blah. So yeah, killing younglings, killing thousands of not thousands, billions of people like the Empire did. It's all just relative in the mishmash of things. And they may go down this road. I mean, it may say that Luke is just depressed, and they do bring back the Jedi Order, which is what I hope. I mean, it does not have to be exactly as it was. I would prefer a more, shall we say, family-friendly way, like the Jedi Order which Luke created in the books, or like the old days Jedi Order was, which was not so strict in emotional connections like the last incarnation of the Jedi Order was. I can accept some change, but if they go down this road that, oh, it's light, it's dark, it's all equal, it doesn't matter, doesn't make a difference. No, you killing and gassing people and destroying planets, it's just part of the natural balance. I'm sorry, that is moral relativist bullshit crap. Hippie crap which is just worthless morality. I mean, yes, it's fantasy. It's just a science fiction story, but for me the idea of the Jedi have always been inspiring, like sort of Buddhist, enlightened, spiritual warrior monks. And if they say, oh, everything they did for the last 10,000 years was just a joke and it's all flawed and idiotic and the dark side is just as good as the light side, no, it's not. And if they follow this road, it's really a reason for me to say, okay, I quit Star Wars fandom, because that's a ludicrous idea, and I simply do not understand why so many fans apparently seem to be so drawn to this grey, moral relativistic Jedi idea. Because even from a story point of view, isn't the classical human hero story the struggle of good and evil? The struggle that there are people who try to be good, try to better themselves, try not to overcome their hate, to overcome their anger, to overcome their own inner darkness, to work hard on self-improvement, on self-betterment, and in turn help the weak, help the persecuted, help the downtrodden. And not just by advice or talk or spiritual ideas, but as warrior monks like the Jedi. I thought that was a great idea, that was an inspiring idea. And now suddenly it's all just relative. Dark is just as good as light now, apparently. I don't like this idea, I don't like this at all. And I don't like even that so far in the time after episode 6, Luke already completely failed. I really disliked that already indicated in episode 7, and the Republic just the same. So all the time, so it is so devaluating what they did. They defeated the Empire, but after years and years and years, they are not really better off. They destroyed or overcame the Sith, and Luke just completely failed in rebuilding the Jedi in any meaningful way. And this is so depressing and so devaluating. So when I watch the first 6 films as one story arc, it begins and there is a drama and there's a fall and the darkness triumphs, and in the end the darkness is overcome, and you have Luke and Han and Leia and they have this festival, and you think, now the Republic is rebuilt, the Jedi Order is rebuilt, and the galaxy will be led back into the light. No, apparently not. No. I mean, I can understand for the sake of telling a story there has to be some new drama. But seriously, can't we just bring back the cool old Sith and some cool new Jedi. Was that not good enough? I mean, isn't that the idea of any mythical conflict between good and evil, that it continues and you follow the ongoing fight between light and darkness? Isn't that the primordial mystic story? No, I don't like the direction, and I don't like the idea that everything is grey and everything is a nihilistic, meaningless, relative mishmash. I don't like this at all. So I've ranted about this long enough, I suppose. Let me know in the comments what you think about my critique.